Welcome to the Process Pod. This is where we dig deep, get curious, and find growth. In other words, this is where we process. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Process Pod. I'm your host Camille, and I'm really excited to be here. It's been a minute since we have had a new episode, but it's the beginning of the new year. I'm feeling motivated, so figured it's time to get back to our commitments, right? I'm not really one to make New Year's resolutions, but I love a good reflection. I'm a reflector. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to share some of my reflections with you all. Some of the reflections that I had at the end of 2022 and at the beginning of 2023. So basically, I've been reflecting for the last week or two because it's still pretty early. But I figured I would share some of those and then kind of see where it takes me. I'll share the reflections I have so far and then I'll reflect some more because that's what we're here to do. We're here to process. All right. So I don't know about y'all, but 2022 for me was pretty busy. There was a lot going on, good and bad. I had probably some of my highest highs and some of my lowest lows. So that left me with a lot of thoughts and feelings at the end of it. I think overall, 2022 taught me to embrace the challenges in life, because when you do embrace challenges, there's always positive growth on the other side of it. Even in my lowest lows, my lowest moments this year, part of what helped me to come out of them was being present enough to think about what can I be learning from this. And it's been pretty cool. I'm actually pretty proud of myself because as I have been learning these things, these kind of life lessons and learning more about myself, I was able to put them into practice kind of right away, or at least able to see where they could apply. And that's pretty cool because I don't have to wait for hindsight anymore. The older I get, the less I have to rely on hindsight. I'm not sure if that's for everybody or if that's just for me, and because my life's work is processing and thinking about things. So that's just kind of how I operate and how I approach my own life. But I like that approach. I like paying attention when things are happening so that I can learn in the moment instead of letting the thing happen and feel like it's happening to me and then looking up and trying to regain my bearings and figure out what all that was for. Hindsight is great. And, we see things a lot clearer sometimes in hindsight than we do in the moment. But there's also something to be said for learning the lesson as it's being taught. I feel like that allows me to learn even more because I'm paying more attention to all the little things. How am I responding to this? How is my mood being affected or changed? What's happening with my body? So that's something that I really kind of honed in on in the last year. All right. Anyway, so maybe I'll talk about some of my highs first. One of the things that I celebrated love so much this year, everybody's getting married. A lot of people have gotten married and gotten engaged. People who are very close to me, family members, friends, line sisters. It's just been really beautiful, and I'm a hopeless romantic. So even if it's not my own romantic love that I'm celebrating, any opportunity to celebrate with someone else, I'm going to take it. And especially with the love that I was celebrating this year, these are my closest people, right? One of them is my cousin. Shout out to Corinne. She's been on the podcast with her new husband, Caleb. 2 months into their marriage, they came on an episode and shared, just what they've learned in a short time about marriage. So shameless plug, go ahead and listen to that episode if you haven't already. My sister got engaged this year. Ugh, amazing. I just, the people that are closest to me, my inner circle, were the ones who are having these really beautiful moments. And, when it's your inner circle kind of finally getting to that line, getting to the finish point, you've seen the whole race and you've seen them struggle through the whole race. So you get to celebrate with them a little bit different. It's a little different than if I was going to a distant relative's wedding. I would still happily go and celebrate because I love, but it just feels kind of different, with this, with your inner circle. It's kind of like, girl, you made it, we made it. You made it. So, and I know what it took to get there. And so that's just a whole other level of celebration. So I thoroughly enjoyed. It was such a blessing being able to see that and to celebrate with them. So some of my highs were absolutely celebrating love. I love a reason to get dressed up. So I went to several weddings. I was in a couple of them. So got dressed up, just feeling myself, I always like that. Give me an excuse to get cute and I'm gonna take it. Okay. The highest point of my year was becoming an auntie. My brother had his first baby. That's the first one in my immediate family. And I was able to just step into those auntie shoes. And I've been really waiting for this for a minute. I feel like I've had auntie energy for a long time, you know? Like in my group of friends, I'm always, a little bit maternal, but not all of the way. Like I'm going to make sure everybody's good, but I'm going to let you live your life because that's your business. What you do is your business. And no judgment over here. You're going to do what you're going to do. And I'm going to live my life the way I'm going to live it. But I'll make sure we all good. I'll make sure everybody's getting home at the end of the night. If people need to cry or need advice, like they're coming to me for it, and I'm happy to give it. But we're also going to have a good time together and have a good kiki. So my niece Azaya was born. And she is just an angel. I'm probably biased. I don't care. She is a precious angel. My brother and his wife live in Oregon. So I had to go and visit them. And that just made it even more special. So by the time I saw her, she was already a few months old. But it was just, that baby is my soulmate. I don't care. We are twin flames. And she looked a little bit like me. So this is why I don't have to have my own kids. Because when my family just keeps having kids that look like me, then I can claim them when I feel like it. But anyway, she just, the light of my life, the light of my life. And I really love being an aunt. And I've seen her multiple times since then. And just watching her grow and seeing her personality blossom is just the best feeling, the biggest blessing. Not even my baby. Oh, how do y'all do it when you have your own kids? This ain't even my child. And look at how I'm talking about this baby. She don't belong to me. I've only seen her a handful of times. I'm only going to see her a couple times a year. We live in different states. And I could talk about her for hours. We have a shared folder of pictures, just pictures of her. I stay going through those. I stay scrolling through those and saving my favorites and all day. She is just everything. So that was absolutely the height of my year. And that happened. She was born at the end of May. So that was just beautiful. I love her so much. And I'm really excited about being an auntie. I just feel like I'm going to do it really well. I feel like it's, this is like my final form and we've been gearing up for this for a while. And now it's really time, Now it's time. Okay. The other thing that has been a height for me last year, and it wasn't an event or a series of events necessarily, but I have experienced so much spiritual growth in this past year. And it has to be because of all the things that I have experienced and because a lot of the lows, that's when I feel the closest to God, is when I'm going through something. But the spiritual growth has been on another level. I just feel like my relationship with God is so much stronger than it was. And it was already solid. Let's be clear about that. It was already solid. But now, and it's still growing. I feel like that's a forever journey. Like, I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I am fully content with my relationship with God and feel like there's nowhere else to go from there and feel like there's no more growth or there's no more that I could learn about him. Or so it's been, I think I wrote in my journal at some point that even though I felt the lows that I felt this year, and we'll get into them in a moment, but the lows that I felt this year were real low, real painful. But I would go through them all over again for the peace that I have and for the intimacy that I feel in my relationship with God. That alone makes it worth it. And those are not even tangible things. That's the crazy part. That's the crazy part. And I think the older we get, of course, in adulthood, we really learn what are the most valuable things in life. And it's not the material things. It's not the things that you can touch or that you can hold, but it's the internal things that are coming. It's the internal peace and the internal joy, and just those are the most valuable things in life. And I just really feel like I kind of leveled up in that way. So I'll take everything that it came with. I'll take all of the ups and downs that helped me to get there, because the spiritual growth in combination with learning to be more present and learning the lessons as they're happening, I just feel like I'm never going to stop leveling up, because you just never stop learning. You never stop learning. If you ever get to a point where you feel like there's nothing else that you can learn, like in life, about yourself, about others, about God, incorrect. incorrect. You never stop learning. And the more that I'm learning just about the, I don't know, nuances of life and the more kind of abstract concepts, it makes life easier. It doesn't necessarily change my external circumstances at all, but it becomes a little bit easier to deal with them when they're happening. If you've been there, then you really feel me on this. If you have had similar experiences, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I mean. And if you haven't, then this is what you have to look forward to. There have been times in my life where I feel like I'm just there's so much tension and frustration because of my circumstances, and just allowing the external to dictate my internal sense of being or sense of self just left me feeling so out of control in my life. Even though, I was making these decisions, but just left me feeling really out of control. So getting to a place now where I have kind of been able to flip that. My external circumstances, I guess they haven't changed too much. I'm hoping for, more of those kind of big changes this year in 2023. So stay tuned. But the way that I approach things, the way that I interact with my circumstances, the way that I have learned to navigate different things as they're happening, the way that I am learning to protect my peace and to not be afraid of enforcing my boundaries has really just kind of made the external less impactful. That feels really good. That allows me to feel much more in control because I'm not impacted by these things in the same way. Of course, I'm still a human and I still have feelings. So when things happen, I have an emotional response, but that does not have to dictate what I do. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Maybe we'll talk about that more one day. Let me know if you want to hear more about that. Okay. So those were the highest highs that I felt throughout the year. Yeah. And they were really, really great. They were really great. The good moments that I had were magnificent. But you know what that means? That on the other side, that the lows were horrific. And my low, they just felt really heavy. Really, really heavy. So let's get into the lows. One of them was experiencing a level of burnout and depression that I have never felt before. I think that's the last episode that I released, was just kind of coming out of that space. So go back and listen to that episode. But, and I've been burnt out before, and I've kind of, dabbled with depression here and there. And for me, the two go hand in hand. So when I'm feeling burnt out, then the depression is going to follow. And I got to a point this year where they just were at the strongest that they've ever been. I've got a threshold, and I don't need to talk about this too much because again, I have a whole episode on it, but I have a pretty good handle on like my burnout threshold, and I'm pretty self-aware when it gets to the point where like I need to take a break or I need to step away from things. And I wasn't able to, my circumstances, again, external circumstances didn't allow me to step away until like many weeks after I had already hit my point of exhaustion and point of burnout. So I was running on fumes at that point. And the depression came in and hit me like a Mack truck. And one of the I think part of why, because I know so many people deal with depression. I work with people who are depressed every day, and it can look a lot of different ways. And there's really no comparison, right? And like level of severity. So I know that my depression was not as severe as it could have been or as it has been for other people, but it still had a really big impact on me. One of the hard things about it is still having to go to work, but it's because of the work that I do and the type of work that I do. It's really hard to, it's hard to help someone who's depressed when you're depressed. It's hard to hold space for other people when you've run out of space for yourself. It was so difficult. I really, it's like I feel like I need to apologize to some of my clients in that time. Like hopefully I was able to still do some good work and not cause any damage. But I just know that I wasn't able to be at my best for them. And that's something that I really pride myself on. But, you know, there are times when I really miss having a regular 9 to 5. There are times when I miss, having an office job where there's not too much, like face to face happening, because my whole job is face to face. It's all face to face, and it takes having to be like very present, and it takes having to put all of your stuff to the side, because the entirety of this interaction is about the person on the other side of it. I love my work so much. I love therapy. I love being a therapist. I don't take it for granted. I understand the blessing and the privilege that it is to have a job that I actually enjoy. But that being said, when it gets to a point where I'm not able to enjoy it anymore, it makes it that much more difficult for me to be able to show up at my best in that space. And that's what I experienced for a few months there. It was really, really, really difficult. I tend to isolate when I'm feeling like that, when I'm feeling depressed, when I'm burnt out. And that's really easy for me to do because I live alone, I'm single, I work alone, I don't have coworkers, and I'm pretty independent anyway. So I don't need a ton of like assistance and help and support on a regular basis. And maybe that has contributed to the fact that it takes a lot for me to actually ask for that as well. Listen, we'll dive into that another day. We'll dive into that another day. That's not what we're here to talk about. That's not what we're here to talk about. But that makes it easier for me to just isolate and completely shut down. And so that was also what was happening. And then that just brings a whole other host of feelings and loneliness and just, self-doubt. And I don't know, there was a lot of heavy stuff in that time. And if you have dealt with depression on any level, then you know what I'm talking about. It takes so much energy to do anything. It takes so much energy to get out of the bed, to take a shower, to feed yourself, to make healthy meals, to keep your house clean. Throw that out the window. My house was a mess. It was an absolute mess. But again, I was isolating, so nobody was coming over here. Nobody was seeing it. So nobody knew that it was a mess. Ooh, it was a lot. I pray I never get that low again, but I fully expect to, just because I know that life is going to keep lifing and keep happening. Anyway, I came out of it. Praise God, I was able to come out of it on the other side. But that was definitely probably my lowest point of the year. And it happened towards the end of the year. But there was still, it was a busy year. I had a lot of stuff going on, like personally, professionally. So there was still a lot of stuff to be done. So I still had, certain like obligations and things that I had to do and that I was responsible for. Ooh, just, being an adult and having to still handle your responsibilities and show up for things when you're not okay, it just really feels unfair. It really feels unfair. I feel like there ought to be an option where you can just check out of life, like life's like obligations and responsibilities for, I don't know, I feel like maybe up to 30 days. I feel like, yeah, you should be able to check out. Wouldn't that be great if there was a way to check out from life for like 7 to 30 days with no consequence or repercussion? I take it. I would have definitely taken it. I would have absolutely taken it. And I don't even know if I would have needed the whole 30 days. I took a week off and went on a little staycation. And that was great. That was fine for me. Just that 1 week was exactly what I needed. And I went back and I was fine. And that was enough to refill my cup. But imagine if it wasn't. Imagine sometimes that 7 days is not enough to refill your cup. Sometimes you need more than just a break and some rest. For me, luckily, thankfully, that was all I needed, was a break and some rest. But what if that wasn't it? Yeah, no. Maybe somebody could write a movie about that. That's not even something that somebody can like invent. That just won't exist. Write a movie about it. Y'all could write a movie about the purge and all that. Write a movie about being able to just check out from life for a month without any consequence and then coming right back. I'd watch it. All right. I also had some financial challenges this year. Ooh, and that's always hard. That's always hard. But again, I kept saying that that 2022, maybe 2021 and 2022, because it's the some of these ups and downs have been happening for the past about 2 years now, but last year especially, I was calling my season of isolation, and I just really, I really felt the impact and implication of of my independence in a lot of different ways. Some of the negative ways, and financially was definitely one of them. What I wouldn't have given to be able to share some of these expenses with someone, to be able to share some of these chores with someone, would have been fantastic. But I wasn't able to do that. And, now I've got business expenses too, because I'm an entrepreneur. I don't work for an agency or a company. I'm in private practice on my own independently. So there are business expenses that come with that as well. But also, the nature of my work sometimes can be unpredictable. If I have 4 or 5 people cancel their therapy appointments that week, then that is 4 or 5 hours that I'm not getting paid that week. So that was also happening. And that went through a few months where it was really kind of spotty. It was real spotty. I remember there was one week when I think I had 6 cancellations in 2 days. The first 2 days of the week, I had 6 cancellations. And that was only by Tuesday. So that really, I really took a hit with some of that. But in addition, remember I said I was celebrating all this love? I had to travel for a lot of that love. There was a lot of travel, which means I was buying plane tickets. Hello? So I'm spending in order to celebrate all these things. And work is unpredictable, up and down. So my finances were up and down. And I also have been saving up to purchase a home. And luckily, I was able to continue. It didn't affect my savings. But I think because I was so intent on my savings not being affected, then that's why I felt the financial burden so much. But when I can't speak for nobody else. I can speak for me. When my finances are not where they need to be, that stresses me out. I don't know if there's anything else in this world up until this point that has the capacity of stressing me out like my finances. So the good thing that came from that, though, is that towards the end of the year, I said, I need to get serious about my finances. I need to increase my financial literacy. I am planning on buying a home, on purchasing a home, and I need to get my things in order. So I hired a financial advisor at the end of the year. And that was a big girl move for me. I felt really good about that. So, the end of the year, this was like a month or 2 ago. So I'm still trying to get all my finances together. But God is good and blessed the business with the increase. So things seem to be kind of stable these days, right? We're in a better position now than I was at different points throughout the year. So really happy about that. But I do want to put myself in a safe financial position moving forward, because again, I'm in this life solo dolo. I'm okay with that. Truly, I am. But some of the things that I have to think about, what's on the other side of that, is I maybe don't have as much of a safety. I can't take as many financial risks because there's not much additional income to cover me if something goes wrong. So that was a lot of my thinking this year. That was a lot of my stress this year. And still trying to establish my practice, trying to establish myself as an independent therapist. Like there was just a lot of that. So like professionally this year, there was a lot of frustration and a lot of challenges there. But yeah, the financial challenges and the financial fluctuation. Oh, I didn't like that. I did not like another reason that I sometimes miss having a 9 to 5, because baby, them checks on time, predictable, and the same every time. That I miss. I know that some people really have always wanted to be an entrepreneur and are like, I can't work for nobody else. Listen, I'm an entrepreneur honestly by accident. Honestly, one day I'll tell that story about how I got here, but I never had them. I never had those dreams of being my own boss and all that. It's cool. There's definitely some pros to it, but there are some absolute cons that I don't think we hear enough about. But you know what? Had I heard about these cons in the ways that I've been experiencing them, I don't know if I would have taken the same path. And I don't know. So yeah, but I've never really been one for the, like, the hustle culture and like the rise and grind. No, I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't want my life to revolve around making money and always trying to make more and always trying to find more. I do that. That is not how I want to live my life at all. And the fact that I kind of felt like I had to be doing that didn't really sit right with me. I've made peace with it now. And right now I understand that I'm in a stacking season because, again, I'm trying to make some big moves this year. But it's a season, and I don't plan on staying in this season forever. I don't know how long. I'm okay with where it's at right now because, again, things have leveled out. I've made some different kind of decisions, and I'm feeling okay right now. But generally speaking, I don't always want to have to be on the rise and grind mentality. I'm okay with it right now, but yeah, no, not forever. The other low that I felt this year was just there were a lot of times where I was questioning things and I felt kind of lost and uncertain. And there were some things that I felt, I could go to other people for counsel on, or, to kind of vent or talk things out, but only a few things. There were some things that I had to really get intentional about keeping to myself, not because it's a secret, but because some of the things that I was struggling with were a direct result of like my circumstances. And as I mentioned, my circumstances are not shared with anyone. No one else is, like, I'm doing life by myself right now. But what that means is that the other people in my life, the other people that are close to me, they're only going to be able to understand to a certain extent. They're only going to be able to empathize to a certain extent. They're only going to be able to support to a certain extent. And one of my pet peeves is unsolicited advice, unsolicited feedback. And I've absolutely been guilty of it. But unsolicited feedback on circumstances that people don't understand really just kind of grinds my gears. And so that's why I had to get quiet about stuff. But that was difficult as well, because when I'm in my own head, my goodness, I can drive myself crazy. I can really drive myself crazy being in my own head and just getting lost in my own kind of thoughts and anxieties about things. And so that was a tough one. That was definitely something that I had to navigate, and I really had to kind of reach in my own, toolbox to help me process some of the things that were happening and to think through some of the decisions that I'm trying to make. And just, I think, we're used to I'm used to leaning on my village because I love them and I know that they love me. And I know that they would do anything for me if they could. But I think some of the things that I was like kind of grappling with or wrestling with, there's nothing that anybody else could do about it. And everyone is so well intentioned, but intention is different than impact. Your intention is you want to be helpful and supportive, but the impact is you're making me, in my experience, feel minimized and misunderstood. And that doesn't feel good to me. I have a thing about feeling misunderstood. That's always been a thing for me, a bit of a complex, if you will. Again, we'll get into it another day. I also am an overthinker. So by the time I have brought any topic to anyone, I've already thought about it on my own for, I would say, at least like, I don't know, anywhere between 6 to 12 hours I've already spent on independent thought about this thing, thinking it through every different way that I can possibly conceive. So when I'm finally bringing it to someone else in my life, and then bless y'all hearts, you have the best intentions, I understand and appreciate that, but the feedback that I didn't ask for, because if I'm bringing it to someone, it's never, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Or can you give me some advice? it's because they've either asked, how are things going with me? Or I just, kind of want to vent, or I don't know, think some things through. I don't know. But it's really not ever with the request of advice or feedback. So that's what I mean when I say unsolicited. I mean, like, that's not necessarily what I'm asking for out of this conversation or this interaction. So when y'all give me this feedback, when people give me feedback that I didn't ask for, and these suggestions and things to think of or to try, I've already thought about that 6 to 12 hours ago. That was one of the first things that I thought through. So that's it's just not really helpful. And then I have to explain why, well, that actually doesn't apply because of this and this and that, or that's not relevant because of X, Y, and Z, and whatever. And and I don't want to make people feel bad, because I know that you're trying to help, and that I really do appreciate. I appreciate that you want to help, but this is not helpful for me. So then I just stop bringing stuff up. Until I am at a place where I've already made a decision and things are already happening, or I don't know. But that was kind of a new boundary for me that became very necessary. And it's not, not talking to anyone, but maybe just, being more selective. And, the sad part of that is that there are definitely people in my life that I love very much and that love me very much and are interested in what I have going on in my life. But I guess I became more selective about what I am comfortable sharing and when. Because getting into the whole thing about, and explaining all the different nuances of what I'm dealing with or going through, or all the different nuances of my circumstance, is really exhausting. It's really exhausting. And I have already been struggling with these things. So I'm already, not feeling the greatest about it. I'm already exhausted about it. And so then it just becomes even more exhausting. And then I feel defensive, and just turned into a whole thing that I wasn't looking for, and that was not helpful to me at all. So, I had that experience kind of a lot last year, I think. And that again kind of solidified the season of isolation for me. And that's one of the things I think that helped me become closer to God, because it was just, in a really real way, it's really just me and God in a very real way, because because of all the reasons that I said. I don't want to, beat a dead horse. But anyway, so I felt kind of lost and uncertain and confused at certain points. And that never feels good for me. And, maybe it's because maybe I have probably a bit of an issue with control, like a lot of us do. But feeling like uncertain, really, feeling unsteady is a scary place for me to be. So I think that's maybe why I feel like part of my lowest moments were when I was feeling lost and uncertain and unsteady, because that's really scary. And if something goes poorly, then I'm the only one to blame, because I'm the one who's making these decisions. I'm the only one who's making these decisions by myself. So that just kind of makes every single decision feel a bit heavier. But the flip side of that coin is when things do go well, I feel so proud, and all the credit goes to me, and it's my accomplishment and mine alone. And that does feel good. So, it's a blessing and a curse, I think, being as independent as I am right now. There's definitely some pros and some blessings that come with it. There are parts of it that I absolutely love, and then there are parts of it that I'm over. And there are parts of it where I'm like, all right, okay, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, ready for something different. So we're gonna see what 2023 brings. You feel? All right. Okay. All right. So those were some of the highlights and lowlights, I guess, of 2022 for me. And so now let's get to the reflections. I guess I was reflecting, but here are some of the takeaways from the highlights and lowlights of my year. Number one is I am really, really focusing on embracing authenticity and joy in everything that I do. Embracing authenticity and finding the joy in everything. Even in the way that I am showing up on any kind of platform, whether it's this platform or another social media one, or at work or in my family or in my relationships, just really embracing my most authentic self and accepting my most authentic self the parts of it that I'm the most proud of, the parts of it that I'm hoping to, kind of improve, the parts that need a little bit tweaking. But just accepting and embracing my authentic self and not being afraid for that to be seen. Because when it is seen, there's a positive, response from other people, but that's not what it's for. When I am my most when I am my most authentic self, that's when I feel the best about myself. That's when I can look in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you, and really mean it. That's when I can fall gracefully, because I know that I maybe wasn't trying to take a shortcut, or I know that I made the best decision that I knew how with the information that I had. I have no shame in how I'm moving and doing things when I am authentic in my moving and grooving. So that authenticity, I think really just, that's something that it's a non-negotiable for me anymore. And as a reformed people pleaser, this is a new thing. This is new. I think being as intentional as I'm trying to be about showing up authentically in every single space, right? If y'all are watching this, then you see that I'm not behind my desk or I'm not in my office, because even in this podcast, I'm trying to embrace a new level of authenticity. I think I definitely felt a certain kind of pressure to present a certain way or to release a certain type of content. But says who? You know what I'm saying? There's really no rules to this thing, and who makes the rules anyway? But being authentic is what allows me to find joy in the things that I'm doing, especially in the hard things, because things are hard and hard things still have to get done. That's something else I learned this last year, is that hard things still have to get done. Something being hard is not an excuse to not do it. So the best and easiest way for me to do the hard things is to find some joy in it. What parts of this can I enjoy? And I enjoy things when I can do them authentically. So for a lot of different reasons, that's one of my top priorities this year. Embracing authenticity and joy, and protecting my peace. Matter of fact, I think embracing joy and authenticity allows me to protect my peace even better. It's a really good tool. Yeah. My next takeaway is that it's okay to want connection, and it's okay to want to be seen. I have, if you have been single at all this millennium, there's been, it's not the easiest, right? And trying to date and all of that. But I, like a lot of other women, have definitely struggled with, self-esteem and knowing who I am and my identity. And a lot of that has to do with dating and relationships. And it's just been a really kind of sensitive kind of area. And I think that there historically has been some shame around wanting connection and wanting to be seen by someone, but there really is no shame in that. And I think that in the past, when I've maybe wanted relationship or wanted different types of connection, it's because I was looking for them to fulfill a certain role or to fulfill something specific within me. But, and this is part of the cliche stuff, but when you get to the point where you don't need someone, but you want them, there's a difference between needing someone and wanting them. I don't need anybody else. I would very much like to share my life with someone else. There's no shame in that. I actually think it's really beautiful. And that was one of my takeaways from this year, because I really started looking at partnership differently, way differently. Like I was saying earlier, I would have loved to be able to share some of these challenges, to be able to share some of the hard parts about life with someone. That's really, really valuable to me. That's one of the reasons that I want partnership, but don't need it, because I've been doing the hard stuff for myself anyway. And as I'm making plans and making bigger moves, I'm making them by myself. So it's not a necessity, but it's something that I want. And I now am okay with saying that that's something that I want, because it doesn't make me feel desperate. It doesn't make me feel, well, yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing. It doesn't make me feel desperate. And I think maybe in the past it did make me feel desperate to feel like to say that I wanted someone. Man, why did that make me feel like that? Why? I don't know. And maybe it was because I was doubtful about if I was able to find someone, or I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts about dating and relationship, but I think I have started to look at them differently, and looking at them through a lens of partnership rather than exclusively through a lens of romance is a much different approach. I am self-proclaimed hopeless romantic. I will never stop wanting romance, and whatever relationship I'm in needs to be a romantic one. There needs to be romance. Like it just has to be there. But that's different from partnership. And partnership, I think, is more of a priority as I'm, thinking about relationships now. And that's new for me, but I like how that's sitting with me. I feel okay about that. That was one of my takeaways from last year. It's okay to want connection. It's okay to want to be seen. Everyone needs to be seen. And when I say be seen, I mean, I think I mean understood. I think I mean seen and understood. That's what I really want. And if that's part of what I'm looking for and what I'm seeking, then I'm okay with taking my time, because like most people, I'm pretty unique. And, like I mentioned, I do have a hard time with feeling misunderstood. And that's something that's been present in pretty much every relationship. There are not very many people on this earth that I feel like really genuinely, truly understand me. But with those few that do, those are the relationships that I feel the safest and the most comfortable in. And if I'm thinking about partnership and who I want to spend my life with, it needs to be someone who sees me and understands me, where I can feel the safest and the most comfortable. That's it. And I feel like that's probably going to take a while, which is why I'm okay with still being single now. Because since I'm not moving out of a place of desperation, then it's not about, I just want someone here. No, not that at all. If I just wanted someone, I could find that. But it's not about that. Camille, this episode is not about dating and relationships. We'll get to it another day. Anyway, so yeah, I think for the first time, partnership is the goal and the aspiration for me, not just romance. And that's a different approach. So I guess those are my 3 major takeaways. Embracing joy and authenticity in everything that I do. It's okay to want connection and to want to be seen, and allowing partnership to be the aspiration rather than romance. So when I finally do start dating again, which that ain't happening yet, but when I do start dating again, it'll have a different approach, and I'm interested to see how that feels. All right, I feel like we got a little bit off track. I really didn't plan to talk about dating and relationships that much, if at all, today, but that's where we are. That's where we took it. Anyway, if you made it this long, then thank you so much for staying and listening through my rambling and my reflecting and processing. Overall, I'm starting off 2023 feeling very hopeful, more hopeful than I have felt at the top of other years. Not that I haven't been hopeful in general, but I don't think that's been like the primary thing at the top of a year before. And that's how I'm feeling now, is I'm feeling very hopeful about things. I hope to carry that through. I'm interested to see, where God is going to take me this year and what he's going to reveal and do in my life. He always surprises me, but never disappoints. That was a bar. All right. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I would love to hear some of your thoughts. So make sure that you are following the show. Share what you think. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Process Pod. If you want to keep the conversation going, submit questions or episode ideas, make sure to follow us on Instagram at @the_process pod. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.